Chapter 2. To Catch an Onyx. I was taken aboard a helicopter where Tall Man gave me my instructions.
You are to find this Diamond Onix, capture it, and collect its data. You are to specifically discover what gives it its special powers, and, if possible, see if we can duplicate these properties to other Pokemon. You are to report back to us with your progress every night with this phone.
He dropped his cell phone into my hand.
This phone will also allow us to track you, and we will know if you try and leave it behind somewhere, or give it to someone else to throw us off your location. I don't care how you capture this Onix, or who helps you, but you will not breathe a word about who sent you on this mission, where your father is, the fact that Team Rocket is behind this, or anything of that sort. If you do, you will never see your papa again. Do I make myself clear, Miss Roberts?
Yes. I spoke as firmly as I could, despite my heart's pounding with fear. I steeled myself, gripping the phone with one hand in the strap of my traveling bag, which was slung over one shoulder like a backpack with one strap, with the other as the helicopter began to descend. Tall Man slid open the door on the side of the helicopter. Below, I could see Mount Moon, and beyond that, a city.
Miss Roberts.
Tall Man grinned sinisterly.
May I welcome you to Pewter City?
I gulped. This was it. I could only hope I could find this Dr. Harrison. I had no idea where he lived or even what he looked like. Locating the Diamond Onix might be even harder. And catching it? I looked up at Tall Man. If I'm to catch this Diamond Onix, shouldn't I have a Pokeball? Tall Man smirked.
That is your problem.
Then he barked at the driver.
Prepare to land!
I closed my eyes, bracing myself for the hard landing, but by the time I opened my eyes again, we were already on the ground. I hadn't even felt the landing. Tall Man gestured toward the door.
I believe this is your stop.
As stiffly as possible, I made my way to the door, not even acknowledging Tall Man with so much as a glance or nod. I had barely stepped out of the helicopter when a gust nearly knocked me down. I turned as the helicopter took off. Then Tall Man yelled something down to me, but I couldn't hear it above the noise of the engine of the propeller. I covered my ears as the helicopter flew up and out of sight, back the way it had come. When I had a chance to catch my breath, I took a look around. I was standing on the edge of the city, and beyond me was a large sign reading, "Welcome to Pewter City." What a welcome, I thought, sighing. Now what? My first objective, I decided, was to find Dr. Harrison. I would have to go into town anyway, so I figured I'd just ask around until I found him. I was so focused, yet so distracted, that I tripped over a pile of rocks and nearly bumped into someone. I looked up. The man in front of me was a tall and broad-shouldered man with a scruffy beard. His dark eyes were shadowed by a red sock hat pulled down over him. "Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry," I mumbled, hurrying out of his way. He didn't look like the type who would take too kindly to being crossed. Suddenly I stopped and rolled around. Oh! I had to take a chance, even if this gruff man looked intimidating.
Yes?
The man grunted. Pardon me, but do you know where I could find Dr. Harrison? The man chuckled under his breath.
Yes, I might know.
Could you please tell me? This is really important. The man stroked his beard thoughtfully.
Well, he may be at the Pokemon Center, where he has his own office. Or he might be assisting the leader of the Pewter Gym. Or he may be in the town square having a practice battle. Any of those places would be a fine start.
Thank you, sir, I waved as I hurried into town. The man just chuckled as I left. I wandered around the town, wondering where to start. I decided on the plaza, figuring I'd had the best chance of at least finding a lead on Dr. Harrison's whereabouts. Suddenly, I was startled by a commotion coming from the center of the town square.
Rhyperior! Use Rock Wrecker!
A young man with spiky brown hair called out. The Rhyperior raised its hands and red glowing boulders shot out like missiles. The young man's opponent, who appeared a few years older, commanded his Pokemon, but I couldn't catch what he said in the roar of the battle. I wondered if the two were related, brothers perhaps. They looked enough alike, with the same brown spiky hair and narrow eyes. I heard one of the boulders whiz over my head. Then another narrowly missed my ear. Next thing I knew, I was on my back on the ground. Pain shot through my left shoulder, and I gasped to catch my breath. The sky seemed to spin above me for a moment. The two young men rushed over to me. The older one knelt beside me and offered me his hand.
Miss, are you okay?
He asked, concerned.
Did my reckless brother knock you down, or did you just fall from heaven? Hey!
His head whipped around to face a Krogunk standing right behind him. Krogunk's hand was raised and poised as if it were about to give the man a poison jab.
Sorry about that.
The younger man smiled sheepishly as he pulled me to my feet. Behind him, the older man scolded the Krogunk and recalled it back into a Pokeball. I grimaced as my shoulder still smarted. I'm fine. Well, except for my shoulder. I bit my lip. I don't think it's broken, but...
Probably just need some ice.
The older man suggested.
I have some ice packs back in my clinic. Why don't we...
My eyes widened. Clinic? Are you a doctor? I asked hopefully, following the two men in the direction the older one had indicated. The older man nodded.
Yes, I'm Dr. Harrison. I started my own Pokemon clinic at the Pokemon Center a few years ago.
Oh, that's terrific! I wanted to leap with triumph. The man stopped and gave me a questioning look. I quickly explained. I've actually been looking for you all morning. I cleared my throat. You see, a few days ago, you wrote to my father, Dr. Roberts, about the Diamond Onix, and I arrived here earlier today on a research trip. I took a deep breath. It's so nice to finally meet you, Dr. Harrison. Dr. Harrison smiled sheepishly and ran his hand through his hair.
You can just call me Brock, Miss Roberts.
It's Annie, I smiled shyly. The other young man let out a soft chuckle and nudged Brock.
This is my brother Forrest.
Brock introduced his opponent from the Pokemon battle.
He is the new leader of the Pewter City Gym. We were having a practice battle so he could warm up before any challengers arrive. I'm very sorry, Annie,
said Forrest.
It's not often I hit bystanders with boulders.
No, really, I'm fine. Now, about that Diamond Onix? We left town and made our way in the direction of Mount Moon.
The most recent Diamond Onix sightings have been in this area,
said Forrest.
If you're hoping to see it for yourself, this would be the best place to start.
I so wished Papa could be here. It was his dream to see the Diamond Onix, and he would have given anything for a chance to actually observe it up close. Suddenly, the ground began to shake. It began as a small tremor, then a tremble, then quickly grew to a full-out earthquake. I struggled to keep my balance. The road gravel bounced into the air and back down again. What could be causing such an awful earthquake? I shouted above the roar of quaking earth.
This could be your Onix, Annie,
Brock answered. My pulse, as if it were not already racing, quickened even more. With one last push and an agonizing tearing sound, the ground before us split, and out burst an Onix. I shoved my hands over my ears as it let out a deafening roar. With the Onix now above ground, the earth became still, but my heart didn't. The Onix was the largest I'd ever seen, and its stony segments, which appeared to be made out of transparent crystal, gleamed in the afternoon sunlight. The Onix turned to the side to let out another roar, and as it did, the sun's rays refracted through the segments, scattering rainbows throughout the mountain path. My breath caught in my throat. This was it. The moment Papa's life's work was all leading up to. I could almost hear my heart pounding, and I could definitely hear the blood rushing in my ears. The path grew eerily quiet and still. A faint breeze whistled through the air and dried leaves swirled all around. Diamond Onix piercing eyes stared into mine and bore into my soul. Chills ran up my neck. For a moment, it seemed like Diamond Onix and I were the only beings in the world. I dared to draw in a breath. How loud it seemed to the almost mystical silence that hung in the air. I took a step forward towards the Onix, almost as if I were being drawn to it, and held up my hand. I don't know why, except it seemed like the thing to do at the moment. I felt a Pokeball being pressed into my hand, and my fingers instinctively closed around it.
Use this,
Brock said quietly from behind me. I transferred the Pokeball from one hand to the other. I slowly raised it and flung it into the air. The ball spun upwards, its red and white pattern becoming a pinkish blur. The ball skimmed the Onix's horn. I heard Forrest whisper to Brock.
What do you bet this is her first Pokemon?
Brock sighed.
Annie, if you want to catch a Pokemon, first you have to...
He never finished the sentence. The Onix was suddenly enveloped in a red light and seemingly sucked into the Pokeball. The ball clattered to the ground. It wobbled back and forth, then became still before it pinged. The button flashed white. Forrest gasped, incredulous. Brock chuckled.
Beginner's luck.
I slowly bent down and lifted the Pokeball. I held it up and stared at it in wonder. I did it, I whispered. I was one step closer to saving Papa.